It's the old Doctor Who show, episode number 12, Robot. The bad audio edition. As you'll find out, when we get to the end, my mic It starts to give a lot of crackling and popping and just sort of annoying buzzing sounds. So apologies for that. I think it works, though. You should be able to listen to the whole episode without blood coming out of your ears. Generally, if blood is coming out of your ears, you gotta call a doctor. It's just not as important to, bring the podcast with you. You know, you're gonna probably be in the waiting room. Just hope your insurance covers it. It's not something out of network that can make the blood come out of your eyes. So anyway, enjoy Robot.
Go forward in all your beliefs and prove to me that I am not mistaken in mine. You couldn't control my mind before, and you certainly can't control it now.
Would you like a jelly, Toby?
The TARDIS, when working properly, is capable of many amazing things.
The reverse polarity of the neutron flows with the TARDIS will be free of the force field.
But the TARDIS is more than a machine. It's an entity, like a person, you see.
The resulting reaction is Friday. Are you ready?
Hi, we're back. This is the old Doctor Who show, the classic Doctor Who review podcast, hosted by
That's
myself,
Eric Grissom
you.
over there.
I'm Eric.
And this is Dan Johnson here. Hey, guys.
And you, Dan Johnson.
That was probably the tightest intro we've ever had.
Do we have to have like
the tightest.
Yeah, do you think we need like a tagline? Like, should we always be saying like, we're watching old episodes of Doctor Who, so you don't have to. You know, you gotta say the same thing so people know what show they're listening to, because somehow they've come
right. They just flipped across the radio dial and came to us.
I've been doing a lot of research on branding, and I think that it's important that we set.
I think we ought to just.
How are you, Dan?
Hey, I'm great. I'm doing great.
There was some news, some Doctor Who news. Well, I guess it's not really news, but you had texted me about it. The actress from Agent Carter wanting to do Doctor Who. Can you tell me about that? Because I actually don't. I know what Agent Carter
Haley
is.
Atwell.
But I've never watched any of those Marvel TV shows.
Well, she was also in the movie. She was in Haley Atwell was Agent Carter in the first Captain America.
Yeah.
So she was from the 1940s. She was the redhead.
Oh, okay.
Really movie star, beautiful woman, great actress, British actress. And now Marvel, since they have 3,000 properties going on every different medium possible, they have the Agent Carter TV show that also takes place in that time period after Captain America is frozen. Anyway, it came out that on Twitter, I guess she does this sort of like, ask me anything sort of thing on Twitter, and someone asked her, would she ever want to be on Doctor Who? And she responded, I want to be Doctor Who, was her quote. And it's just, Twitter's just like, hey, yay, because every time we talk about a new Doctor, people kind of get really excited. Not that we're necessarily ready for another one. We have Capaldi probably for at least another season after this one, I would guess. I don't think it's been announced.
Yeah, Matt Smith was 4 years? 3 years.
Because it was the...
Yeah, they divided them up.
It was divided up, and there was the huge hiatus in between, so that's hard to say. 3 full seasons, then there's the Christmas.
Yeah, so there is no standard at this point.
There's a quote from back in the classic series that 3 seemed to be the optimal number for an actor to play the Doctor.
But who did 3?
No one. I think it was actually an excuse to fire one of them. Colin Baker, I think, was...
Yeah, everybody goes by 3. It's totally fine.
But anyway, so the Agent Carter thing was Haley Atwell would be great. I think it'd be really interesting to see a female Doctor. Everyone always says this, but I think it'd be great to see a female Doctor. The only variation we have in Doctors are whether they're English or Scottish, and if they're older or younger, and that's it. And otherwise, it's a white guy. So it'd be really nice to see something a little bit different.
Right.
I mean, we have the Master has now switched genders, so
yeah. I it's whoever's I have no problem with that. That would be cool. They got to mix it up a little bit. Although I would love, and I've said this to you before, I feel like Steve Coogan would be an amazing Doctor. I love
Yeah.
all things Steve Coogan. He's like one of my favorite, funniest people in the world. Because it would be great, because then it would make that scene in the... Did you see The Trip?
No, I didn't see it. Yeah, no.
Oh, you got to go watch that movie. It's amazing. There's a scene in The Trip where Steve Coogan's on the phone with his agent, and his agent's got him a gig, guest starring on Doctor Who, and he's like, I don't want to do Doctor Who. And it's like this really touching sort of scene about like where he is with his career and all the kind of things going on. And if then he ended up as Doctor Who, it would feed right back into that. And that's what I like. I like things feeding back into each other. But I'm not familiar with this actress, but as far as a woman or whoever being, it doesn't matter.
Check her out. She's great. I think she's really good. Of the Marvel shows, like there's the other Marvel Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., that show's pretty crap. It got all convoluted and shitty. They kind of rebooted it a little bit, and it's a little bit better, but Agent Carter was solid. The other thing I noticed is on her @replies on Twitter, when she had said, I'd love to be Doctor Who, someone corrected her and said, well, first thing, the character's name is the Doctor. And she said, I stand corrected, which is not actually true. In the title sequences of the original classic series, including this one that we're going to review today, it says Doctor Who, Tom Baker. So I burned that guy's house down.
Yeah, and plus, that guy really needed to say something.
I know, he just needed to get in there and be like, hey.
Come on.
Hey, girl.
Technically, you don't have...
Technically, it's...
But, that would be cool. I mean, we'll see what happens. I feel like Stephen Moffat recently in some interview or something hinted at that as a possibility. There's lots of that talk about these things being possibilities, but whether or not they actually happen. Yeah, didn't Peter Davison come out and say he was not for it? Like, everybody sort of has to weigh in on this junk. Because the Doctor's always been a man, and therefore you can have a new time. Like, that's always the counter argument, is just make new characters. You don't have to. You keep this character, and then you introduce a new character,
I don't know.
Or whatever. But
there's this criticism that Moffat can't write women well, and to some extent, I agree with that. I mean, they end up being ciphers. They end up being just empty vessels for him to like pour whatever into it. They don't really have much agency of their own. To some extent, I mean, I think the actors playing these female parts bring a lot to it. So even if on the page it's a little bit dead, I think they handle that well. But I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like there aren't any women writers on this show, right?
Ooh, that's a good question.
I know there's been female directors, but I don't know as far as like the usual writing crew of people that are writing modern Who. Is it all dudes?
I actually never really checked through the writing credits.
I feel like it is, but I don't know. Don't quote me on that because that could be misinformation. Either way, and also you were talking about just New Who in general. I know we talked a little bit before about the way the arcs are structured, or the storylines.
Arcs in general. I don't know. I was just thinking. I was watching flipping channels and came across BBC America, and they're doing this whole countdown of what they're calling, some of the Doctor's best moments. So they're doing a whole bunch of episodes leading up. So they did Blink, they did Waters of Mars, they did End of Time, and I was just watching End of Time for the umpteenth time, and just realized how much I like the Russell T Davies years, and I wondered, because I'm a fan of the overarching story arcs across the entire season. I like the little recurring motifs that build up to a final thing. And I wondered, like, is there a comparison between Moffat's years and Davies' years, just to see, like, what those kind of, how they worked out?
I always felt that, like, Moffat does spectacle better, and the character stuff is much better under
I'm always going to feel that way just because of Rose and Tennant. Rose and the 10th Doctor is one of my favorite things ever. It's just... The best, to me, like the best love story.
Yeah, when he's leaving her on the beach, like, come on,
don't do it. And then they come back together again.
Let's just start crying. Let's do 45 minutes of two dudes crying.
In the Davies era, season 1 was Bad Wolf was the story arc, which I thought was fantastic.
And that was
so good. Because it did actually have clues throughout the season. There was references back.
And I totally stole that. Yeah, I totally... Yeah, I took that in Dead Horse.
In your daily life.
The two-headed dog graffiti throughout the thing. No, I mean, I was like, this thing is great.
It's so good.
I'm going to use something very similar to this, and I love that because then when you Moffat did that a little bit.
Well, that's
with
the other thing. So season 1,
you kept seeing
first season of Davies was Bad Wolf that had things going throughout it. Series 5, which was Moffat's first, was the Pandorica, the crack in the wall. And that was the same thing. It was almost the exact same thing. You would just see the crack in every episode. But it was so blatant. That was really obvious. So they had those two things.
Yes, and it was very forced. And you knew it was... But like with the Bad Wolf, when he revealed that at the end... I was like,
well, it was great because then they do that whole flash. It's when Rose realizes that it's been a recurring thing. That's when the audience realizes, as opposed to Pandorica with the crack in the wall.
Right.
We're tipped from the very beginning, and no one else knows. Like no one else really notices it. It's just like, hey, here's the shot of the crack. Right. But then, like Series 2, there was the Dalek invasion, and that's Rose's ending. But there was not really any overarching arc for that series. Series 3, there really wasn't anything except for the end when the Master comes in with the sound of the drums, but that, he takes the Dalek invasion there again. Obviously, Series 4 had the Dr. Donna,
but with Season 3 to back up though, because you've watched this more recently than I have. They did do that build up with the Master as far as like the election posters, right? Weren't they throughout the whole season where you kept seeing?
They do, yes. There are a few, but that was Season 3. Yeah, that's right. The Master gets elected, and anyway.
Okay.
No, that was anyway. Now I'm getting confused too. I just looked through all these.
I think we need to restructure the podcast. 15, 20 minutes crying, and then the rest of the time is just going. You see, the thing is, I didn't do the but and then
Anyway, so that was it. I mean, Series 4 had the Dr. Donna. That actually had some stuff going throughout it. Then Pandorica. The next series was Melody Pond, River Song, The Silence, which that wasn't one of those hinted things. It was just the blatant thing they're talking about. Series 7, Impossible Girl, that's throughout. Series 8 didn't really have anything. I don't know. It was just interesting. I think you're right that Davies did these things more subtly and better, and it was more character based.
Yeah, and I like both of them. Nothing
very different. Very different.
Certainly nothing against. It's just what I prefer. I like sort of the character, emotional stuff. That's my own opinion. Yeah. All right. So should we? Speaking of spectacle.
That's the
and giant metallic thing.
Best segue ever. That was amazing.
Should we jump into the robot machine? Let's go right into robot. Let's go back to 1974. I'm gonna hit the button, Dan. I'm gonna hit it. I got the launch. I got the launch codes.
Look, Brigadier. Look. I think it's starting.
Well. Here we go again. Get with the medical officer. Lieutenant Sullivan, emergency. Come to the lab at once, please.
Human history.
What's he talking about?
It's something that happened when we first met.
I tell you, Brigadier, there's nothing to worry about. The Brontosaurus is large and placid.
Is the patient, sir?
And stupid. The square on the hypotenuse equals the sum of the square on the other two sides. Why is a mouse when it spins? Never did know the answer to that one.
Excuse me, sir. The daily reports.
Take him to the sick bay. I'll make a proper examination there.
What's happening? Who's... That, Mr. Benton, is the doctor. You mean he's done it again?
This is Robot, 1974. This is Serial 1 of Season 12. This particular storyline was written by Terrence Dicks, directed by Christopher Barry. Now, the story editor has become Robert Holmes, whom Terrence Dicks had been the story editor. Previous to this, Dicks is on the way out. I think this is the last episode for Terrence Dicks, so it's kind of interesting where you're swapping, where Robert Holmes was writing a lot of the scripts before. With Terrence Dicks as the story editor, now Dicks is writing and Robert Holmes is the new story editor. In this tale...
This is also the last. This is the last story produced by Barry Letts, who had a big run there for a while as well.
That is true. In this particular tale, the Doctor regenerates into his fourth form and is put under the care of Harry Sullivan. Meanwhile, Sarah Jane plans on doing an expose on a science agency called Think Tank, and that is the National Institute for Advanced Scientific Research, which, those letters don't stand for think tank, so it's just two names used together. While the Doctor investigates a strange burglary of plans for a disintegrator gun. So that's basically covers the broad strokes of this episode. We've got a lot of new characters here. We've got Harry Sullivan, we should talk about. We've seen him before in Carnival of Monsters. Do you remember him? He was the guy on the ship.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, he was the guy on the ship that was like the captain. Same actor, not the same character.
Sure.
So he makes a
Yes, they
return
did
here
one of
now
those
as a
again.
unit medical officer
Great.
Who's going to become a companion.
Right. But this is the first time we've seen this
Yes.
character.
Yes. The first time he shows up, and he's already sort of best friends with them. We've got the whole think tank group led by Hilda Winters, a great character, who's also a secret Nazi of some kind.
A.K.A.
Secret science Nazi.
A.K.A. Velma from Scooby-Doo.
Yes. Yeah, if Velma had gone wrong, if things had gone terribly wrong. Jinkies, lying against the wall. People were getting executed under her reign. We've got Kettleworth, who, again, thank you, Einstein, for setting the standard of what all scientists will look like from here to the end of time. We've got...
I don't want to jump ahead too much here, but that guy was the best part of the episode. Yeah. He was fantastic.
Awesome.
Everything about him was... Yeah. Actually, Velma was really great, too.
From his shaking hands to his...
to the Coke bottle glasses.
To his character arc, not quite...
A lot of eye acting.
Don't quite understand how all the stuff adds up with the reveal that happens with him, but we'll get to that. We've got K1, a robot, which I thought was cool because are you familiar with K9? So this is K1, the first...
that was going to talk about that too. Very excited.
That was very cool.
Yeah, as soon as they said this is the K1 model, I jumped up and down a little bit.
We've got the Brigadier who...
Even though K9 is not necessarily one of my favorite characters ever, but
come
still,
on.
It's great.
Really? You will learn to love K9.
I'm saying not one.
Yeah, you have a lot of adventures with K9 coming, so hold that. Just dial that back a little bit. We've got the Brigadier. We've got Benton is back for this one. We've obviously got Sarah Jane.
Benton with a promotion.
Which they make a point of
big
putting
days.
a note about.
We've
got Tom Baker for the first time, so we get a regeneration right off the bat with a lot of callbacks, too, to Spearhead from Space. I thought, him in the hospital and trying to escape and all that stuff. We've got... I think that's good. I think we pretty much covered all the main characters.
Yeah.
So what'd you think? What was your impression of the first Tom Baker outing?
Oh, so good. I love regeneration episodes. I like seeing what the actor's going to do with the character for the first time because it's this weird meshing of where you know that they're going to end up being and what they're paying homage to in the past. So you get this nice little blend of the two. I think it's fantastic. So that sets me up already to love
and did you pick up on the Christopher Eccleston scene in Rose? Eccleston looks in the mirror, flips his ears up. He makes a comment about his ears, and Tom Baker does the same thing. It's
right. That's true. That's right. Eccleston's entire performance is Tom Baker. I didn't realize how closely Eccleston must have used Tom Baker as a template because the performances are so incredibly similar. From the facial expressions and the line delivery, it felt like Eccleston, similar in a good way, not in any sort of rip-off sort of thing. It was just really cool to see. Just like Capaldi seems to be like a first Doctor, third Doctor sort of guy that he's kind of going with, and Eccleston seems to be like fourth Doctor was his kind of template.
I really wish we had gotten more than one season of Eccleston. I think he's one of the best. I think he's definitely overlooked. Part of the modern day Doctors go. I mean, that's all a conversation for another day. But he's still at the top of my list. I thought that
the purposefully short one season.
He was amazing
because he grew so much. There was so much nuance, and yes, I agree. But
so we get a lot of crazy.
About the rest of the plot. I mean, there's the whole point of view robot shots with the watching it clumsily supposed to be
those poor sad looking claws that are just barely held on by extension.
The robot design seems like it was something that was amazing on paper because a lot of it looks great.
The head is great.
Area, the chest area, everything is great. It's fantastic. The chest is cool with everything on the front and the back of it. The arms are great until you.
That's where they ran out of time. I think they were building it
until
pop them on, guys.
The legs are ridiculous. The feet are crazy. And then those hands, which you need to pay a lot of attention to them because they are the only thing you see of the robot for the first episode is just the hands in the point of view shots. And they look ridiculous. It's like Futurama. Clamp. It just has the little clampy hands. And they're very awkward.
Was the one area. You need to spend a little more time on the hands. Everything else was great. And it's like they were totally, it seemed like they were out of time. We got to get this thing out and just glue the hands on. I don't care if they're hanging off. But back to speaking of callbacks,
Yeah,
Tom Baker also did a "I'll talk to anyone" bit on the phone, which made me laugh because that was a line that I love so much from that Pertwee episode. So it's a pretty basic premise. I think that the storyline works. You've got this robbery that's for a disintegrator gun, and the disintegrator gun is used to kill the ambassador or some kind of British guy holding the launch codes. You've got this whole secret society or Nazi-like group of scientists that are sort of behind the whole thing.
Yeah, loosely inspied by the Nazis.
Like that scene with her, it was like a Nazi rally at school gymnasium where she's at the talent show and she's just yelling.
It was like an elementary school gymnasium.
All right, where do you want to start?
People in the audience, but it's
there's a lot of great things, especially in that Nazi scene when they hide Sarah Jane behind a couple boxes, old cardboard boxes on the main floor. No one's going to see you there. How did they even get her in that room with all those people? That was the best hiding place that they had for.
I mean, I guess we could just go chronologically, and so there's a theft at unit headquarters.
Yes,
stealing
plans for the disintegrator
ray.
Gun.
Plans.
At which point, also the Brigadier admits that he has no friends to Sarah. Did you pick up on that part where he's got no one to talk to and he just starts telling Sarah it's government
who else
secrets?
Can I talk to about this?
He's got nothing. Poor guy.
Yeah,
he was very sad in this
She's
episode.
Like, I don't even work for unit. I mean, I don't want to skip over. Is there more to say about the regeneration? I mean, it's such an important thing.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't want to not give it the time it deserves.
To me, it was funny because it was, you had the whole scene where he's changing his outfits and he's going in and out and coming out with these different crazier outfits till he finds, the iconic long scarf and hat that everybody associates with. I mean, and he's such at least in America, whenever I thought of Doctor Who, it was always Tom Baker. I mean, it was that was, and I feel like that's.
It was during Tom Baker's years that PBS started carrying Doctor Who. That's how Americans got introduced to it. Was during the Tom Baker years. So yeah, absolutely, that was my first.
And I find that whenever I talk to, and I guess it's the age of the person, but friends that I have from the UK are all Pertwee. That's the person that he's always associated with the show, and that probably makes sense for when they were of age. But yeah, I mean, it was cool. That you had that funny bit. You had scenes very similar. Again, I mentioned Spirit from Space, so he tries to escape and get to the TARDIS, and he's running around the halls, and he's doing all the things that Pertwee did when he regenerated.
Yeah.
It was good. I mean, I don't know what else we need for that.
That's great. All right.
It was cool. A very TARDIS light episode, too, this one. I mean, even though in the beginning he tries to escape and get rid of these nuts, we don't ever really see the TARDIS until the very end. It's it's another unit episode, very much on Earth.
Well, it seems to be the last of the unit episodes for a long time.
And it makes sense
because the major the Brigadier is not going to appear for quite a while until the next season. So all of this is finally off of Earth for a while. They can go do some other stuff. Great. So the robot steals or something steals this thing. But again, I have this problem, and it's not a Doctor Who problem. It's just kind of lazy writing. Was that so? These plans are stolen, blah blah blah, and coincidentally, Sarah Jane wants to go do this expose of Think Tank, and the Brigadier can get her a pass to go do that. It's just there had to be. Could they spend an hour just tossing ideas around to figure out how they can get these two things to work together instead of just being pure coincidence?
Right. Well, then they do spend.
Did that not bother you? It bothers me.
But they also spend time to put Harry Sullivan undercover in the think tank, but for no real reason other than he gets captured. He never gets any information from that thing. He just ends up captured.
No, it was purely so that he could be a hostage later.
Put him in there. So they did spend time to give him
you'd be a hostage.
A reason. So they, I see that, but I don't have as much of a problem with that as you. I just, that's just.
I mean, I go with it. Obviously, it's fine. It gets us to where we need to go. But I just feel like if you had spent another hour with a couple more writers in the room, you could have figured out a really clever way to just get past it and get into it. So that bothers.
That's because you have no heart.
I don't. I want logic, pure logic.
So to your point, so then she's simultaneously investigating the same thing that the doctor is, and then they come together because, once the doctor figures out he sees like crushed flowers or whatever on the ground, this is a big thing. It's got to be something the size of it, so she can run and be like, it's a robot. It's a giant robot. They've got a giant robot. So anyway, so that's the plan, and the doctor figures out, hey, if they're stealing the plans, figure out what are needed to build this thing, and then put all your men on that, which they do, and they figure.
Right, so they're going to go guard the next thing that they would need to build the disintegrator ray, which was some focus generator thing. So they go and put sandbags on top of a bunker and barbed wire up a place and get all dozen military guys they have, because unit
they're very short
operates
staffed.
with about less than 20.
They don't have a lot of people. Literally,
no.
Yeah,
they mentioned this, Eric. They mentioned this. Remember, what's his name? He gets a promotion because the brigadier is supposed to have 2 guys under him, but because they don't have the budget for him, they just promoted him.
Benton gets a promotion, and he's also spent some of the time serving everyone tea. Like, they don't have a lot of people. There's that just one scene where he's just holding a tray of tea while they're talking about exposition. Like, there's no... He just, I guess, needed something to do with his hands. Like, what if I had the tea? What if I was just holding the tea? Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, so I think they're short on money. That's all. It's a lot of budget cuts. Yeah. Probably because all the money went to that nut job at the Nut Hutch, with his endless budget for building tasty fungus.
They took up a collection. For his honeymoon with Joe.
Right.
So that really strapped the cash. It was a nice gesture, though. So what were we saying? Yeah. Oh, so they have to go and protect the next thing, and there's the reveal of the robot at the end of the first episode with Sarah Jane, and the robot's going to must destroy. And it turns out that it was a quote unquote joke by the director.
Yeah, she's dark.
This actress was fantastic. Dark, yeah. The character was good, and I really liked the actress.
Yeah, she was great. She was like...
and it wasn't just the haircut.
Yeah, it was like a precursor to the Baroness or something.
The haircut helped.
Yeah,
exactly.
was. She was great, and like that scene was great. And obviously, they're doing King Kong. Like, they really play that up at the end that this is King Kong when they make the robot gigantic.
Oh, at the very end? Oh boy, that's some good green screen.
So you get the whole thing where she shows. I think it's in episode 1 when this happens, and she shows sympathy. Or is that how episode 2 starts?
Yeah.
Because I think the cliffhanger, she's going to get killed or whatever. But she's this is like one of these tongue twisters.
She sells seashells by the seashore.
She shows sympathy to this creature, which gives them sort of a bond that's going to carry us through the rest of the episode. And this is K1 and Sarah Jane.
And that sympathy... Yeah, that sympathy was because Velma, that's not her name, the director of the think tank tried to demonstrate that the robot
couldn't get his
destroy her. She's an enemy.
Prime directive.
He was conflicted, couldn't get past the command versus his
just
prime
like
directive
RoboCop.
To not hurt people. It's exactly the same as RoboCop.
Yeah, built by the same company. A lot of people don't know that
theft.
yet. And then we also find out that I was going to say that.
But that conflict is the thing that Sarah Jane seemed to say, it looked like it was emotion. He was in pain, this conflict between his programming and his directives and da-da-da.
And that conflict becomes...
Because that's important, because that shows up several times.
The conflict becomes the major issue that the original scientist has with what Think Tank's doing. And this is where, for me, the whole thing doesn't make any sense, because we learn at the end that the scientist has been working with Think Tank the entire time. He's the one that was able to reprogram the robot so that it could go against the prime directive, not to hurt people.
Because it was his robot, and he had said as a cover story they wanted to do these bad things with it, so I left. I'm going to go pursue other things.
Why did they do all that stuff? Why
no one could possibly...
He could have just stayed working at Think Tank.
Why the red herring?
Yeah, why does he tell them information that would lead them to destroy the group? Like... It was like a switch, it was a whole he turned out he was bad the whole time. But everything leading up to it didn't make sense for him to have been bad. It felt like, why did he leave the place?
For no real
Why is
reason.
he having these conversations with the robot when the robot tries to kill him, that he's really concerned about him? And he didn't need to do any of that. He could have just been some weird scientist at the factory or at the think tank and still accomplished his goals.
Well, because they needed him at the end. He's the one that has the crisis of conscience at the end, and we can't actually go through with this plan.
Sure.
I believe in your goals. Society should be run by scientists, blah, blah, blah. But we can't really blow up the world. So I guess they just needed to have some sort of...
Yeah,
I don't know. They just needed more for this guy to do. I think they just wanted this guy to be in every single
and he was
episode.
shaking because he's so
fantastic.
nervous. Like he was giving it his all. He was great. More of him.
Yeah.
More of him and more of what's the woman's name? Hilda Winters.
Velma.
She was a great villain.
No, it's Velma.
Great villain.
Jinkies. So then the other thing is that so it turns out through Sarah's investigation of this other society of what was the not Nazis? We're not Nazis.
Oh yeah, that was the Reform Society, Scientific Reform Society, the SRS. And they had their
SS.
own logo.
The SRS. They do, yeah, and they have their own uniforms too. So Sarah goes to their headquarters and meets the douchiest douche of the world. Guys trying to explain, like, well, you're just a woman, and is that really the right thing for you to be wearing? And where's my dinner? So there was that coincidence too, and of course the Nutty Professor is a member of that group, of that organization, and that's when the whole reveal happens.
Yep.
But yeah, the fact that they're having a big rally of 20 people and they're all wearing brown uniforms with their nice SRS logos is it's just over the top enough.
It was perfect, and there's like certainly a lot of that, and we get with the Daleks and everything else. So like, it's still it's not that far off from World War II at this point in the 70s. I mean, that was what.
It's only 25 years later, I guess.
So that's still a lot of people.
People aren't over it yet for some reason. I don't understand.
And Nazis make great villains because they're just pure evil. All right, so then the Doctor also learns about the scientist, and he goes to visit him, and he has a conversation where he sort of corrects him on his alternative energy program, and they sort of have a bit of a rapport between the two of them. And you think, the Doctor is also driving Bessie, which I guess is probably maybe one of the last times we see.
Yeah,
and the license plate says Who.
Probably, yeah.
Did you know the license plate said Who? So there's a Doctor Who reference again that he is.
There is a shot.
Yeah, there's a shot. You see the license plate, and it's WHO.
A shot of
Did it always say that? I just never realized it.
I don't.
Yeah, I'll put it in the show notes here. I'll take a screenshot
I feel like it
of
did
that.
Before.
It may have, but it just
I think I feel like Bessie did have some sort of plate like that before. I feel like they did that shot before, but I don't recall. Okay, so then there's the last twist. Then there's the last twist in the plot that just seems so unnecessary. But you alluded to it before that the metal in the robot is some sort of living metal.
It's living metal.
The professor called it, and with enough energy, it's able to take a metal around it.
It can grow and shrink,
regenerate. So the Brigadier, it's impervious to bullets, obviously. Of course it is. So the Brigadier has the disintegrator weapon, shoots it. That gives it enough energy to grow to enormous
and becomes
proportions.
Quite the King Kong that they were hammering that analogy home.
They do a full Fay Ray thing with Sarah Jane, picking her up, putting her on top of a building. It's the entire it's super silly, but good. But I don't understand like the whole thing with the why do we need this metal virus thing as well? I don't know. It seemed like an overly convoluted plot for no good reason.
But that's okay. I mean, they wanted it to be indestructible, but you also had to have a way of destroying it. So they get a bucket. The Doctor comes up with the virus or whatever that can affect this living metal within the lab. Well, we're sort of skipping over the part where the robot, the whole purpose of getting the robot and getting the disintegrator gun was because the disintegrator gun was the only thing that could open up a safe that had launch codes in it, I guess, whatever. So they get the launch codes, and at this point, all of the major powers, China, the Soviet Union, and the United States, have given all of their launch codes for all their nuclear weapons to England, and England is going to release them if anyone steps out of line. Which doesn't make a lot of sense either, because if one of the countries does step out of line, you would release the launch codes and then the whole world would be destroyed? I don't know what the deterrent factor of that is.
I don't think the geopolitics was sound in this
somebody
case.
needed to do a couple of more meetings, I think, just to figure out that they figured out they got in the best treaty. So anyway, so they get it. They go to a secret bunker, this Nazi science group, and they're going to launch all of the nuclear weapons, basically take the world out, and then take it over somehow. So we have multiple scenes where the countdown...
Rule whatever's left of the
There's
Earth.
multiple times where there's a countdown going, and the countdown is stopped. So at one point, the doctor has, as you mentioned, a change of heart. He realizes these people are horrible. He saves the day before getting destroyed by the professor.
The nutty
before
professor
getting destroyed
does,
by the
yeah.
robot.
Mhm.
Then how does it happen the other time? Oh, the doctor...
The robot decides...
but there's also the time that the
robot decides that...
but the doctor figures out they're probably going to relaunch the missiles and to institute the failsafe, where they contact this is all within like 2 hours. They're able to like contact China, the United States, and the Soviet Union, and have them deactivate all their missiles so that the codes don't work.
Just unplug the missiles.
Yeah,
Just
it
unplug
works.
them.
So you have this whole thing going on, and that part didn't make any sense either. When they did rescue everyone, and then nobody was watching the robot or Sarah, and then the robot took Sarah, and they're looking for them, but no one's looking inside except for the one dude that's just like walking around, and they're like,
right. No, they're checking the woods. They're checking the woods for miles around. They thought maybe they went on holiday.
Send a couple guys inside to
I don't
figure
know
that out. Yeah. Well, you guys hopefully are listening to this, have seen this episode. It was a good episode. It's not my favorite.
It was a good episode.
It accomplishes a lot for setting the tone of Tom Baker. I think it does what it needs to do in a good way, and it's funny, and I like.
Yep.
Even though we don't really see,
we have the introduction of
Harry.
We have the introduction of the Jelly Babies.
Yes.
In this one too.
Although I feel like
this actually
they've
happens.
mentioned,
That's
they've
an iconic thing.
mentioned Jelly Babies too in the past, but yeah, this is definitely Tom Baker's thing.
This is you definitely associate that. I do anyway. Associate.
Yeah,
Would you like a Jelly Baby with
absolutely.
Tom Baker? And that's
we
that's
meet we meet one new companion, Harry, who just sort of they push him on the TARDIS at the end. I don't know if they necessarily established a relationship between the three of them. I mean, Sarah and Harry, I guess they spent some time as prisoners.
It didn't really seem like Sarah wanted him to come. It was just like, I guess we're going to bring him. She didn't really seem all that
he
psyched
was like,
about
yeah,
it.
go.
Like the doctor had basically just convinced her to come along. Like it wasn't even a sure thing that she wanted to do this anymore. And she's going to come with him, and she's all smiles and like, "Hey, guy, you want to come too?" She's like, "But I thought it was just you and I thought we were going to go."
I guess, yeah.
Yeah, it was a little weird.
So we do introduce him,
but I love.
Yeah, a lot of stuff gets accomplished. I thought the robot, the major points were really cool. Like I like secret societies and all that kind of stuff. So the whole secret science thing I thought was cool. I don't know if we ever see that SRS group again. I hope we do, because I think that they live, right? What's the fate of the bad guys? I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, I think they're captured.
Right, but they're all alive, so they could reappear.
I think so. Yeah, they could.
Um,
Or we could write some fan fiction. It could still be
I'm
canon.
doing that right
so
now.
It's cool.
It's
a
sexier version because there's like
Sure,
here come
sure.
the launch codes.
Little something.
Yeah,
in
the
there for
launch
Daddy.
codes are in your pants.
Yeah,
because it's all right. So what do you think? I mean, I'm giving it a thumbs up, but not my favorite
episode. Oh, is that our rating system? Yeah. I'm going to give it a thumbs up as well. Yeah, it was a good solid episode. It moved quickly. It was it was not one of these things with this flabby and bloated extra stuff going on. Little convoluted, but okay, it's fine. The performances were really good, so that didn't matter.
Everyone was great. All the actors and actresses were great.
Yeah, great.
Was the guy that that was her assistant, was Hilda Winter's assistant, his name was Arnold Jellicoe. Has he been on the show before? Because the actor looked very familiar, like maybe we've seen him standing around a plastics factory at some point in the past.
Exactly. He looked like one of the guys from Terror of the Autons, but I don't think that was him. I think it was a different actor. But it definitely looked like the wormy guy from Terror of the Autons.
So it was good. So
yeah. Oh, the other thing we didn't mention that we wanted to mention from last time as well was the title sequence.
Oh yes, I'm glad you brought that up because we missed that. So, they've changed it up twice now since
they changed it up quite a bit,
or since we started the show. Yeah, so we had that
so
wraparound effect, and
episode,
now we have this sort of three-dimensional push
tunnel
thing.
effect. Yeah. So the last revision of the title sequence before this was Pertwee, where you had this kind of tunnel sequence where it came in on Pertwee's face, the reveal, like they do in almost all of them, and it kind of pushes back, reveals his whole body, and then his silhouette becomes the time tunnel with these kind of sharp angles, and that's when the logo was redesigned to a diamond as well. So this one is very similar, except you got the Tom Baker face, obviously, for the Doctor, but the vortex, the tunnel, is the TARDIS shape instead of the Doctor's shape. As well as some like really cool smoky effects, kind of like a Rock With You, Michael Jackson sort of thing going on. It was nice.
Yeah.
I liked it.
I
what was that face?
No, you were breaking up, so I didn't hear anything you were saying. A little back inside baseball here for people listening at home. We do video while we're talking to each other. And so Dan had frozen in like this weird face, and I just it was something like that he's doing now. It's great. Make reference to visuals.
It's visual humor for a podcast medium.
But I think I got the gist of everything you're saying. It's a great opening, but I also want to talk about the end credits, because that is one of my favorite sequences of all of Doctor Who, and that is what burned into my brain as a child, because I would watch the show and fall asleep while it was on and wake up and you'd see that like spinning white tunnel with the sort of like the oil-like effect. That is just amazing. With the song playing and that image, it's no wonder I made some of the life decisions that I made through my teenage and young adult years. Fascinating. Yeah. I love that. And I think that end sequence, I believe, is new for Robot, right? That was not in the last Pertwee episode we saw.
That's a good question.
I feel like that's new.
That's a good question. I don't know. Because I usually, honestly, tell you the truth, I'm watching this on Hulu or Netflix, but usually Hulu, and it does the autoplay and jumps to the next one, so I just have to stop it before it goes on. So I don't know if I actually caught the end sequence in this one, but sure.
Yeah, that is just wonderful art right there. So yeah, I mean, it's good stuff. Now we're off into space. I mean, the next one we're doing is Ark in Space.
Yeah, we're off and running.
Which is a awesome episode.
Which is the next actual story.
Yeah, and we're going to be covering.
Right.
I think this is the first time we're ever doing 3 in a row. So we're seeing Robot, Ark in Space, and then the Sontaran. Is it the Sontaran Experiment? I think that's the name of it. Which are the first 3 of season. Yeah, Sontaran Experiment. The first 3 of this season. So we'll see. We're going to see actually almost all of Tom Baker's first season. Genesis of the Daleks, I don't think follows Sontaran Experiment. So I hope you guys all
that's fine.
Stay with us and do that, because that is
all
pretty cool. Yeah. So as you know, if you are a fan of this podcast, please tell. Oh, you know what, dude? I'm all over the place. But Genesis of the Daleks does follow the Sontaran Experiment. So we are going to see
we're just gonna do
everything.
All of 1974. Let's just do all of 74.
Well, we would have to add Revenge of the Cybermen, and we would do the whole 12th season.
Nope.
You're cutting it off. So we're doing everything from season 12 except for Revenge of the Cybermen. Sorry, Cybermen.
Yeah. Sorry, Cybermen.
The point is, if you go to theolddoctorwhoshow.com, you click on schedule, you're going to see everything we have coming up. As you'll see, the next one is Ark in Space. That's available for you on Netflix and Hulu Plus, so you have no excuses. And the episode after that is going to be the Sontaran Experiment. So today is 8/26, right? No, this Wednesday when this goes up is 8/26. So expect our next episode, I believe, on September 9th. So get to watching. Again, I think I was in the middle of saying it. If you do like this show, please tweet about it and like it and share it and do whatever, because, we're trying to grow an audience, and you guys can help us do that. Cool. You can follow me on Twitter at eGrissom.
And if you want to get in touch...
Yeah, I cut you off.
Yeah, you can follow me at No One Follows You. Stop it. And I'm at DanJNJ. You can also email us from the website or at, what is it? The Old Doctor Who Show at gmail.com.
Yeah, send us a letter.
Emails. We love getting those from you guys.
It could be a criticism.
Yeah, or you can send us a postal letter. Yeah. No, there won't be no PO. No criticisms. Okay, great.
Cool. So we will see you guys in 3 weeks.
Thank you
guys
so much for hanging out with us.
Friends, Yeah. Anything else, Dan? You want to say anything on the way out? You hate Doctor Who. That's weird.
Hi, is that Greg? Hey, how are you? Very good. You emailed me, you asked me to call. Can you hear me, Greg?
I can't.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, I'll stay here.
Right, Doctor Who.
Doctor Who?
Very keen again.
What, is it the baddie?
Yeah.
I don't want to do British TV.
Well, I mean, all you need is... You just need one film, Steve, and that will prepare you.
I've done 10.
You need the right film. You see, you've got a huge amount of momentum behind you.
Yeah, you get momentum when you're going downhill.
Well, yes, but...
I want to be in films. Good films.
Where exactly are you at the moment? Where...
I'm in the Trough of Bowland.
Rather appropriately, Greg, I'm in a trough. Literally and metaphorically.
Yeah, is Misha with you? Is she enjoying it?
Yes, she is.